Um, I agree with a lot of what you have to say. Definitely, what's going on in Syria is there are a few people around that do try to put it off as a religious thing, but it's definitely not. I agree completely with what you say about Assad, and the a lot of the things that people take out of context with the Quran, and I think that where this comes from, a lot of it is because they'll take bits and pieces, which is the same thing the Christians do in the Christian Bible, or as Jews do in the Talmud. There are many verses in all books that do point out and depict some violence, but people first are human, so that is going to happen. And it doesn't matter if you look at history books or religious books, there's violence all through history. And this is usually from misconception or miscommunication or religion or politics. And a lot of times one is used as an excuse for the other. But the permission to fight is given to those who are fought against because they have been wronged in the Quran. And actually, it says, truly God has the power to come to their support. Those who were expelled from their homes without any right, merely for saying our Lord is God, which is Surah Al-Jaz 39:40. And, there are things like this, but taken out of context, a lot of people use these for excuse. In brief, Muslims, excuse me, Muslims were allowed to wage war only because they were oppressed and subjected to violence. And the Quran also sets down very definite stipulations on this. Surah Al-Baqarah 190, fight in the way of God against those who fight you, but do not go beyond the limits. God does not love those who go beyond the limits. And what this is if you're fighting somebody and you are Muslim and you're fighting a religious war because you're defending yourself or your family, and somebody turns around to say, okay, I'm done with this, we need to make peace. As a Muslim in Islam, you have to obey by that because the Quran tells us this, Allah tells us this, to make peace if peace is offered. And an aggressive war is not stipulated in the Quran. There's nowhere in the Quran does it say go out and purposely attack anybody. And a lot of people use a lot of verses out of context to do this. And and I agree with you, it is a minority that do this. And in the U.S., we also have a minority of Americans that do this as well. And one thing that they forget, and I'm not going to pick on any books, but you can go to any of the other books, and actually, in my opinion, there are worse verses in these books. But if you bring them up to a lot of people that misunderstand some of the wording, they will say, yeah, but you're talking about the Old Testament of the Bible. And one of my comebacks to that usually is, so we should rip that out of the Bible and just forget it, that it's not there. And the same thing goes with the Quran. You have to use common sense. You have to have knowledge. You have to have education to understand what you're reading. Without that knowledge, without that education, how can you understand what you're reading? And it's going to be interpreted wrong. So yes, education is definitely the key here.